Uh, Honorable Secretary for Petroleum, Shri K.D. Tripathi, Chairman of the PSUs, leaders of the industry, dear esteemed guests. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to be addressing such a distinguished audience today, to present to you, finally, the results of the Investor Index and Market Survey that EyeOn and PetroFed have been doing for the past month. India's energy sector is at historic crossroads. While the Honorable Prime Minister has given the mandate of decreasing oil imports by 10% by 2022, the IEA predicts that India's oil import dependence will increase to 83% by 2025 and to 91% by 2040. Similarly, it sees natural gas import dependence increasing to 53% by 2025 and to 49% by 2040. In light of the challenges ahead, it has been noticed by everyone that the MOPNG has embarked since 2014 on an ambitious set of reforms, both to improve sector governance but also to bring much needed investments in the sector. In light of the challenges ahead, EyeOn and PetroFed have proposed to assess the measures and initiatives taken within the sector for the past 2 years. We have had a 1-month survey that has gathered 214 responses from across the sector's value chain. As I speak, the survey booklets are being given to you. For those who do not have them, you can pick them up at the exit once the function is over. Without further ado, let me now finally give you the results of the market survey. The first thing that we have done with PetroFed is looking at the overall ratings of the investment conditions in India. They've been extremely positive both in the immediate, short, medium and long terms. What I'm going to do now is to show you a series of 4 different slides that show the positive ratings for investments in India from these 4 different time periods. As you can see, the investment conditions, the positive ratings in terms of 2016 today are rated at 82.3% positive, but they increase over time. They increase to 84.6% within a year time, to 89% in the medium term, and finally to 92.3% in the long term. This is an average of 87%, but it also explains that with the expected stabilization of oil prices and India's growing energy appetite, we do see more and more investments coming in the sector. We have then proposed to compare this in light of companies' investment and growth strategy. In this regard, EyeOn has categorized India as a market of cautious optimism. The reason is that based on the company's investment growth and strategy, we see that over 70% of the companies are adopting moderate investment strategies, out of which 55.6% define their investment and growth strategy as moderately aggressive. And again here, what EyeOn is trying to do is making a difference between the public sector and the private sector. Because when you look at the capex figures, actually India has had, in terms of the PSUs, it's been the highest capex in fiscal 2015 and 2017 in several years. And again, this year, you can see that 60% of the capex that has been planned is being reserved by companies like ONGC, Oil India, ONGC Videsh, which again shows as well a strong commitment to the E&P sector. What we have done with PetroFed then is looking at the policies and having an overall assessment of them. What the survey shows is that the industry is seeing the policies as being, in a large majority, pro-business. We need to note, however, that over 50% of the respondents maintain a cautious approach to these policies. We see that even if we just have a minor 4.3% assessing the policies as being anti-business, 47.3% have seen them as being pro-business but restrictive. And I'm going to get to that later. We interpret that as being a need for more ease of doing business in India. And this is again very much what the chairman of Shell was saying, and this shows actually in the figures, because I'll get to this slide right now, then I'll get to the ease of doing business. The most positive factor that we have seen from the survey is the increased transparency in the sector. As you can see here, we have well over 80% of the respondents who think that the sector is much more transparent following these policy movements since 2014. They do expect this again to bring a significant growth to the sector. And finally, this is where I was getting with the ease of doing business. We can see that when we ask people what can bring more investment in the hydrocarbon sector, we have over 50% of the respondents who go from a more ease of granting licenses and approvals, but as well more fiscal stability, reduced bureaucracy. This is very much related to the ease of doing business. Finally, we have looked at two specific sectors, the upstream one and the gas one. Upstream because of help, because of small discovered fields, of course. And the first thing that is really emerging out of the responses is the emerging consensus on revenue sharing. It had been debatable when it came, but it seems that the consensus has really built up and the industry is backing revenue sharing as obviously a way to end all the litigations that had plagued the sector. Again, we have, when we ask the industry leaders what are the main advancements of the hydrocarbon exploration licensing policy, we saw that a third again were saying it is the shift to revenue sharing. But we can see that the majority of the people went for the introduction of the open acreage licensing policy. From the interviews that EyeOn has conducted over the past few months, it is indeed showing that this is the most welcome concept within the industry, providing, of course, that seismic data is here and that the NDR is finally completed. I'll pass on this one, and I'll get to the gas sector. Just this one was an interesting one indeed, because since the most challenging thing facing the industry is to reach the target of decreasing oil imports by 10% by 2022, what do you think should be the best way to get there? Again, the industry has been pretty split on the matter. Majority of the people went for we need to have more private investment in the upstream sector, which makes the ongoing auction for small fields even more important. It needs to be to bring more private players, medium-sized or big ones, within the sector. But we also have a fifth of the industry each who went for more increased investments in overseas assets and more exploration of these sedimentary basins, of course. The last thing now is gas. After the COP21, EyeOn and PetroFed wanted to know how do we curb down CO2 emissions in India. Given the audience, there was a few choices that included electric cars. Given the audience, we were not surprised, of course, that only 6.8% wanted to see the electric car industry further developing in India. But again, almost 2/3 want to see a faster transformation to a gas-based economy in India, which again, we have related to the gas pricing reforms. You've had at least two major ones, of course. 2014, the first revision of the gas prices, but as well more recently, marketing freedom and pricing for deepwater, ultra deepwater HT areas. And again, this has showed, because the industry thinks that these gas pricing reforms will successfully bring back investment in the sector, but as well develop more fields. And actually from the interview we had, for instance, this week with the chairman of ONGC, it was clear that it is the marketing and pricing freedom for difficult areas that has allowed the ONGC to get the approval for the $5.076 billion investment in KG. Finally, and this I'm going to go back again to the speech by the chairman of Shell. Indeed, we are all saying that gas needs to be further developed in India, but we are just at gas in an energy mix at 7%, while it is at 25% in Gujarat. So we went obviously to ask, how do you get the usage of gas further increase in India? Without much surprise, 63.6% of the industry thinks more needs to be done on developing gas infrastructure in India. Actually, from the database that EyeOn is tracking, we are seeing that up to 16 LNG projects are currently planned in India. They will not all materialize and be commissioned, of course, but it still shows the industry's willingness and the industry's foresight that gas is the future. Actually, these 16 projects have a combined greenfield capacities of 70 million tons per annum, which is 3 times more what the installed capacity is in India at the moment. Similarly, if you look at pipelines, the network is being doubled, but the capacities of the transportation of the pipelines is being more than doubled, because it is expected to go from a current 430 MMSCMD to well over 900 once all the pipeline projects are completed. Finally, and I'll finish on this, I hadn't planned to put this slide, but the answer has been so surprising to us that we wanted to show you the results. What is the best way to increase technology deployments in the oil and gas industry in India? Remember, this is a question asked primarily to an Indian audience and Indian executives. And when having the choice of going for the deployment of local and indigenous technologies, only 8% of the industries actually has the belief that indigenous technologies could be the future. In opposition to that, we have over 50% of the industry who thinks that the country needs further cooperation with international services providers or international academic institutions. I'll just now finish on sharing actually one or two remarks. What we are seeing has emerged from this survey is two different things. First of all, the extreme positivism of the industry on investment conditions in India. Second of all, the push of the industry to really see more of the gas sector developing in the country. Now, this is just the first step, of course. All these results are going to be available in the EyeOn global platform, which is going to be released in the fall. It is a free of charge energy platform made with the Ministry of External Affairs, FIPI, PetroFed, and the endorsement of the DIPP, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Obviously, I have to thank PetroFed now. Under a new leadership, young and dynamic one, we have been able to complete this survey, which we hope is going to inspire more policy reforms in the future. And distinguished guests, let me now thank all of you, all of those who have taken the survey, for your contribution in the success of this initiative. Thank you very much.